edition of the Misfits of Real Estate. It's nice and sunny here in Rochester, New York for a change. So Matt and I are kind of crying to be inside, but we're going to have a lot of fun. We've got Ben Schuster on today. I'm going to bring him on now, and we'll just jump right into it. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Doing well. It's sunny here in San Diego, so we have more of those days than I'm sure you guys do.
Yeah, many, many more. We usually just kick off the show by having you give us a background, kind of how you got started in real estate, and then just bring us up to speed quickly on where you're at now.
Yeah, sure, be happy to. So I guess my interest peaked on real estate has to go back to when I was about 12 years old. Leading up to the 2008 financial crisis, we actually were one of the unfortunate ones that lost our homes during that time. And that period of time really stuck with me all the way through undergrad. I studied finance and economics and really wanted to understand the global, the global financial crisis of 2008. So I did a thesis on it and just really became sucked into broader finance and in particular real estate. After graduating from Chico State, which some people refer to as Harvard of the West, that's a joke, by the way. I got recruited to go work for BlackRock, and I worked on a trading desk. It was called the capital markets desk for about 3 years, and then transitioned from that position at BlackRock to raising institutional capital for the private equity real estate and infrastructure platform, and then did that for a handful of years, and then positioned leapfrog from there into actually being on the real estate investment team for BlackRock. I did that up until 2023 of May. And then in May of 2023, I actually left BlackRock and joined as a partner for the firm I work for now, which is Comfort Capital and Manufactured Housing Investment Company based out of San Diego. None of our properties that we invest in are actually in San Diego, but we office out of here. And I've been doing that for about a year with my primary role interfacing with investors and raising capital.
Awesome. Yeah, this is going to be great. What do you like most about your current role there as the person in charge of all the investors? And maybe give us a little bit of insight on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways I can go about answering this question. I think first and foremost, it comes down to the people. I love our investors. We raise money from normal business owners, high net worth, just regular individuals, and really helping them prepare for retirement and helping them achieve financial freedom through cash flowing, recession resilient real estate is something I take a lot of pride in. So that's what I love the most. I think secondarily, I love looking at chasing and acquiring deals. So I'm a deal junkie. So we were just out in Dallas last week looking at a couple of deals that we really like. And so I love getting out in the market. The reason why I love real estate so much is the tangibility of the asset class. You have to go to the market, you have to touch it, you have to feel it to really understand the value. And so I love getting into the markets and acquiring deals. I like underwriting deals, and I like the competition of just, going through that bidding process. And I think thirdly, like for my team specifically, I love the people that I work with, the other partners and our entire team. It's a younger firm in that, our ages, we're all, young families in our mid 30s, but we've been around and doing this for 15 plus years. We have a lot of experience doing it, but I like that it's a young entrepreneurially focused firm that really puts our investors first, and the fact that we invest in all of our deals and have all of our kind of capital and sweat equity into the deals, it just ties. There's a great alignment of interest across investors, across ourselves, and then we really we really care about uplifting the communities. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I like if you couldn't tell.
Are you guys doing all manufactured homes? Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, so that's all we do is manufactured housing communities. So, otherwise known as mobile home parks. But we have about 24 communities currently in our portfolio. Historically, we've owned about 35 or so. So we've sold about 10. And every time we sell an asset, we actually 1031 exchange the entire partnership, and then transfer that partnership into the up leg of the next deal, which is really advantageous for investors because we do all the heavy lifting for them, and then they could defer all the capital gains and then roll that, realize that appreciation, roll their amounts into a new deal, and just kind of compound that cash on cash return. And that's primarily what we want to do as well. We're cash flow investors. We like to utilize the depreciation. We like to utilize the 1031 exchange and just defer taxes and focus on improving the community, getting that force appreciation, but really a very keen focus on growing the cash on cash or the income.
So Ben, this is actually super interesting because we haven't, we talk about 1031 exchanges in terms of what sponsors have done, but have not really talked about like using the same partnership in a 1031 exchange transaction. I know you're not like a qualified intermediary to know like exactly how the mechanics work like that, but can you kind of like explain to somebody who's dumb like myself, like how like what it needs to look like in order to maintain compliance with it? Can you bring in new partners in that process? If so, what's the threshold amount, or is it like it has to remain the same exact partnership through every 1031 exchange?
It's a great question. I'm not an attorney, but to answer your question pretty, in a straightforward and a quick manner, yeah, you keep the same LLC structure and you can bring on new partners. So you could raise additional capital through that existing LLC, and you carry that forward. So, for example, on some of our deals that we'll transact on, if we do a 1031 exchange, and we don't bring on like another TIC or tenants in common or another sidecar LLC, then we'll be raising just fresh cash into that existing LLC.
Okay, got it. So it's like so the tenants in common is kind of used as a sidecar tool to like make that thing happen then, right?
Tenants in common, just think about it, and it's fractional ownership of the actual real estate. So it's a way that you can use and bring on multiple 1031 exchange on one LLC.
Okay,
is the most simplistic way to kind of think about it.
Absolutely. So all we need to know is that it's possible. Okay.
It is very possible.
I just want to back up a little bit because your background is, you went from a trading desk to essentially a sales position. Like what was the impetus like or catalyst for that happening? Because that is really interesting to me.
Yeah. So I always like going back, and that's why I touched on it when you first asked about my interest in real estate. My goal was always to work in private equity real estate, and being someone who kind of grew up from let's just say a affluent background, and not having all the resources, going to a state school, and then being at that state school not having a lot of resources of like real estate courses and so forth, or internship possibilities. It was really difficult to kind of navigate that. So when I landed at BlackRock and started working on the capital markets desk, the trading desk, I knew where I wanted to eventually get to. And so what I did, like any person should do in their careers, is I seeked out mentors and people that were already doing it, and then started to build relationships and ask their advice. And one of my mentors, I'll never forget to this day, I was telling her that I was thinking about leaving BlackRock, going to business school, so then I could pivot and go work in private equity real estate. And verbatim, she looks at me, she says, fuck business school, and her words, not mine. And she said, why don't you just go raise capital for the private equity real estate platform, get to know the investors, get to know the portfolio management team, understand the asset class and what they do, and then do that for a couple of years and then pivot into the investment team. And I was like, well, that's a great idea. Before I could even get up from her desk, she picked up the phone, made one phone call, and I had an interview internally at BlackRock for that team that did that. And it played out exactly how she said it. So yeah, that's kind of how that transition worked. I knew where I wanted to go, and I was resourceful enough to be able to reverse engineer how to get there based on reaching out to people that are in that spot currently.
Absolutely amazing, because I was one of those, like, I was at a point in time, I was in residential real estate sales. I was like, don't really like this. I'd like to do something different. And so I thought that like, okay, I just need to go back to school and get my, go back to B school and, get my MBA and that sort of thing. And so I studied for the GMAT. I took did you take the GMAT at all to like when you were thinking about this, or no?
So I bought all the books and I was going to study, and then that was during this conversation. So, but it's funny enough, full circle, I actually am wrapping up my master's right now. So I graduated in May, part-time, so I work full-time. So it was still a bucket list item for me. I wanted to go to business school. I'm actually doing a master's in real estate, so it's very specific to real estate. But yeah, so I guess I didn't take 100% of her advice. I ended up, going to a master's program eventually.
Yeah, no. And Mark, last thing, I don't know if I told you the story before, but the GMAT is another one of those like computer adaptive tests that like it messes with your mind so much, because if you get the first like couple of questions wrong, the test will get easier and easier as you get each question wrong. So you're like constantly questioning yourself during the entire process, like, is this test getting dumber and dumber? And if so, the questions don't seem to actually be getting any easier. And so it's a whole mind game. And I remember the first time I took it, I didn't even complete the test. I went out to my car and I put sunglasses on and I just like wept and sobbed. So
Nice.
Okay, I'm done.
What is your focus for your master's? Like, how do they? What programs do they offer inside of the real estate master's degree that you honed in on, and for other people that might be interested in getting another degree?
Yeah, I'm at the University of San Diego. It has a fantastic real estate program, and I'll say, I got to be honest here. I did it primarily to build a professional network here in San Diego. I lived in San Francisco for most of my career when I was with BlackRock. And so when I moved back down to San Diego, where I'm from, I wanted to build a professional network. And so I looked for a really good real estate master's program to do that. And the University of San Diego was able to provide that. But for anyone that's looking to do that pivot and doesn't have like a background in real estate investments and wants to learn how to do it and learn the skills, I would highly recommend it. I mean, you take underwriting courses, asset management courses, development courses. You're getting taught by practitioners, right? So you're really like, you're reviewing leases, you have real estate law negotiations. So I mean, the coursework is great, but really, and you guys can chime in here, the real value in the master's program is you need to get involved, you need a network, you need to do the things outside the classroom, in my opinion personally, because it's a lot of money. And today you could really learn all this stuff from just the internet, for the most part. So yeah, it's not just about like taking the classes and going in and leaving. You really got to use all of the extra kind of activities, competitions, the mentorship programs, the network, that all encompassing, there was really the value, in my opinion.
Very cool. What do you guys do for management of the actual, not the asset management piece, but the property management?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So we're vertically integrated. So we have about 50 employees. So we do all the property management in-house. So Comfort Capital is the investment arm, right? That's like and then Comfort Communities is our property management arm, or the management arm. And one of the reasons why we built out this vertical integration, and it really goes back to the firm's emphasis, is just because there's not a good third-party manager in MHC as there is in apartments. So it was really built based on necessity. And today it really helps us because we believe that we can manage the properties better than other operators. And it takes a lot of time and dedication to be able to build out those teams and those procedures and so forth. But if you drive through our communities, they're really beautiful. And there's a huge disconnect between like a Comfort Communities management or managed property and like mom and pop, or even just some of the other operators. Like the roads are paved, the street, the yards are very clean. We have a lot of rules and regulations. There's no broken washing machines out on the front yard. And I think that's really and it happens, tires or broken down cars, but it really elevates the quality of the park. It increases the safety, and it also instills a broader sense of ownership, of pride of ownership, which is really nice. And we do like competitions, who has the best garden and, best like decorations around the holidays and things like that. Just the beauty of this asset class is that community aspect to it.
Do you guys
Yeah.
offer that as like a third-party solution for other owners, or no? It's just
No,
only
yeah, no, we wouldn't. No, and we would never do that. Managing the property management business is an intensive business, and I wouldn't say it's generally like a great revenue driving business. We use it out of, like I said, basically out of necessity, and we use it to increase the value for our investors. And yeah, we would never look to manage somebody else's property. It's pretty intensive, even though you're not going in and fixing toilets. The management is definitely hands-on.
Yeah. And then how hard is it to spread out location-wise? Are you in multiple states? Does that become an issue, or are you more, everything's pretty close together, so the management's not difficult?
Yeah, you're kind of spot on there, Mark. It is, we concentrate in markets, and we do it for two reasons. The reason you just touched on, from a scalability and a management side, they're easier to manage. And then secondarily, it's because when we go in and we'll build portfolios. So then when we go to exit, we can package a handful of properties within, a broader portfolio to then sell, and you usually get a cap rate compression based on that, because your buyer pool increases the more units you could deliver. And it all stems back to the first thing I just said, the management side. So we're very focused. Arizona is our main market. We've owned historically in Nevada and Colorado as well, but we have 24 communities in Arizona, split between Phoenix and Tucson. And then we're looking to build another portfolio in Texas. So being very Southwest focused. And we underwrite a ton of deals. I mean, we underwrite deals all across the nation and have so for years. And we really have now kind of targeted, our sweet spot and where we want to be. And part of that is, you need to have a lot of conviction, because once we don't do a scattershot approach on purchasing deals. So there could be a great deal and it's maybe in, I don't know, Alabama or, South Dakota. And maybe there's a great opportunity for somebody else, but not for us, because we just like to be very focused on the markets that we invest in.
Will you pay a little bit of a premium to stick in that marketplace?
That's another great question. I think, like, yes or no, I would say yes, but the premium, we wouldn't look at it the same way as somebody else looking at it as a premium. We would look at it as we are able to sharpen our pencils more on a deal where we have scale in that market. We can manage, we understand the cost, we understand where market rents are. Another interesting thing about our space is that the market data is terrible. So you have like RealPage or like Yardi, like you have these services where they can help you project where like market rents are. And so usually, like if you have a property manager or if you subscribe to them as well, they're pulling vacancy, market rent across that, in that direct area, right? Like maybe that 5-10 mile radius. And then they're spitting out, what your suggested rent would be for apartments. And so that's why you see apartment rents, they ran up like 20% between 2021 into 2022, just in that 1 year. And a lot of that is due to kind of that like algorithmic pricing or, smart pricing. And so in our space, it's more of like the tortoise, and like multifamily is the hare. So the data for space rent and MHC is pretty bad. So we've had to build it in ourselves. And I won't give away all the secrets here, but we feel pretty good at what we believe market rents are. And so a lot of these places that we're buying, they're either mismanaged from an operating side, or they're just under-rented.
Do you find that your expertise might put you at a disadvantage where other buyers might pay more of a premium because they don't have that inside knowledge?
Well, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have it, right? If it's in our market and we pass on it, then there's going to be a story behind it why we didn't go for it. But yeah, it's tough, and the markets has changed for everyone now. And I think the people that are really going to succeed are the seasoned operators that are, say, vertically integrated, that have been doing this for a while, that have seen all the hiccups that can occur when you're managing and operating these deals and, buying and selling, just where the risk-free rate is in, where treasuries are and where just cap rates are, you really can't go in blind and make dumb mistakes, because they can cost you and your investors a lot of money and heartache. So I think we're going to excel during this time, just because we've been doing it for 15 years.
Yeah. I'll do one more, then I'll let Matt jump in. Are you easily sourcing deals right now, or is it tough?
It's a good question. It's a bit quiet right now, and I think it's the seasonality of just the transactional market. But we are seeing a handful of deals. Like I said, we just got back from Texas. We are putting in some offers in on some deals there. There are a lot of opportunities that are starting to pop up. But like I said, it goes back to kind of my main point. We're very selective in our buy box. So there's a handful of deals, but what fits our buy box is a lot smaller. So we'll underwrite a ton of deals to understand just where things are trading at. You want to have a pulse on the market. But I'm optimistic that come summer, and that's generally, come late spring, come summer, the transactional market picks up a lot. So they're starting to, a lot of deals are starting to come online.
So Ben, what criteria and metrics do you use to establish interest in expanding or establishing a foothold in a new market that you haven't penetrated yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. I look for demand drivers. So I'm looking for population growth. I'm looking for employment growth, because in my opinion, if you have population growth, you have employment growth, and you have a supply that, I don't even care if it is growing. There's just not enough homes in the United States. That's going to translate into rent growth. So I think we have about 6 million home shortage in the United States. And what you see in multifamily right now is that you have a 40-year high of deliveries. And so, the talk is like, okay, multifamily is in a tough spot right now. And it's because you have all the supply that's coming online now, which is starting to, drop rent growth, flat to negative rent growth, because you have new deliveries. When a developer comes and brings a new apartment online, they're going to put in concessions, 1 month free. Maybe they drop the rent because they want to stabilize that property, so then they can go and sell it, right? Or put agency debt on that deal and monetize their promote and the risk that it takes to develop. And so when that happens, you have all the supply comes online, takes a little bit of time to absorb that, rents drop. But where capital markets are today, and just where debt is, it's not really accretive to build. And so my personal feeling, and I'm not a multifamily guy, but I'm a residential guy broadly, is that you're going to see a period of like negative to flat rent growth, right? Cap rates haven't expanded that much. But the problem is there's not going to be new construction starts. And so what will happen in like 2 years is that all of that supply will get absorbed, and then we'll be in the same position that we were, call it 4 or 5 years ago, or really since the global financial crisis. We just never have recovered on the same, building trajectory. And that's really going to drive rents. And so we're just catching up from an MHC side. We're just catching up to where multifamily rents ran during the pandemic years, right? So we're still so below market compared to where they ran. And then as they kind of taper out and flatten out, that's fine, because it's going to take us a couple of years to get up to that. And by the time we maybe get up to where we believe the appropriate spread is between, let's just say average multifamily rent versus MHC rent in that specific submarket, by that time, like I said, all of that new supply is going to get absorbed. And then I think rent growth will just kind of crank again, and we'll just kind of do this slow, with this low tortoise just growing on the rent growth. And if you look at it over a 10-year hold period, it looks great from an IRR, AAR, equity multiple standpoint, if you just have that steady rent growth, right? And cap rates that don't expand, outrageously.
And Ben, population growth, what's the magic number? Is it any population growth? Is it of a certain percentage? Like, can you kind of give me some flavor on maybe some of like those things that like, all right, this is going to be maybe like passing like heads or tails on a given market from that perspective?
Yeah, I'm not looking at a specific number. I'm thinking like, I want to be like, so for example, Phoenix, which is we're a big player in, Maricopa County was the fastest growing county in the entire nation for 2 years in a row. right? Dallas DFW as an entire MSA continues to be one of the top 5 largest growing metropolitans in the entire United States, and I don't see that dying down. So I'm not looking. I don't think real estate. This is why we're not brain surgeons. You don't need to be so exact and say, oh, I'm looking for this exact metric, right? I'm not doing that. Essentially, what I do is I look at the data, I look at what's going on in the markets, and then I'll go into that market and I need to feel it and I need to see it. I need to see the developments going in. I will go into the leasing office for, say, a build for sale community. I'll go talk to the people. How are your home sales going, right? Are you seeing any investors buy these homes? I'll go into the new apartments that come on. Okay, what are your rents at? And we use CoStar and those other things. Where are your rents at? Are you seeing rent growth on your lease trade outs, right? So, and then it's employment. Okay, understanding where the projected, employers that are coming online that will bring workforce housing, which is supportive of our market. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily, I have an econ background, but I'm not an economist and I don't try to be in any way. And I try not to overcomplicate things, right? I mean, it's the deal, it's the market, and it's the sponsor. And so that's the way that I kind of look at it. So does that help? I mean, I know I just really danced around it, but there's not a specific number that I'm looking at. I just want to be in those high growth markets.
People are always looking for like the hard and fast rules. And I get these questions all the time. Like, what's the magic number? What's the, whatever X rule? And I'm like, I don't know. Most of the time my answer is it depends, because there's just so many more nuances to it. And Rochester, New York, where Mark and I are heavily invested in, is not a high population growth. I mean, population has basically been like stagnant for a long time, but we still have a housing shortage. And a lot of people are scratching their heads like, well, population isn't growing. How do we have a housing shortage? And it's because through new household formations with, a family of four turns into, 2 to 3 additional houses or housing units being needed and that sort of thing. My follow-up question before I hand it back over to Mark is, like, if you were to have a off-the-shelf, like, business plan that you have for each of your assets that you do when you go in there, because it sounds like you're in the value at MHC space, like, what is that? What does it look like?
Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends. Every deal is going to be different. So it depends on the quality of the infrastructure. I mean, you kind of got to build it from the foundation up, right? So if you're buying a deal, you need to understand what you're buying. Some of the biggest risk in our space is infrastructure cost and unknowns, right? So let's think about electrical, sewer, water, gas. Like, you need to understand the quality, of that infrastructure and the amount of cost to budget, because that's first and foremost. You have to ensure that you're providing safe and safe utilities and services to the residents. So that's first and foremost. After you do that, roads. So we go in and do new roads, maybe driveways, and then signage, landscaping. I think we're kind of more gearing like CapEx focused, but the management side is extremely important. So bringing in a professional management team, our team in-house, changing, like, if they were collecting rents through paychecks, like turning that over to online, making sure you're billing back utilities, instilling rules. I don't know if I touched on that, but having a set of rules and cleanliness around the park. And then we move into the fun stuff. So then, like, let's redo the clubhouse, right? So let's do, like, what you guys are probably more familiar with, like in a value add apartment space, maybe B-class apartments. Let's do that type of strategy on the clubhouse. So really celebrate the space, new pool furniture, new designs around the clubhouse, and making it inviting, making it a place where kids can go and do their homework, or, on the weekends you could have a pool party and things like that. And then playgrounds, you do splash pads. You can get pretty creative. Like I said, we like to have fun with the investments, but it really all comes down to, it depends on what it is you're buying and what it is that you're buying, and what you buy it at, and what's the community around that, right? Like for example, like one of the deals we're looking at has a small playground. It doesn't have a clubhouse, but it's across the street from a $5 million brand new park. That's amazing, right? So why would we spend money on putting in a nice park when they can walk across the street and utilize something that's way cooler than we could ever put in, and nor we have the space for. So yeah, it depends. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I swear, last question. Have you guys ever bought a deal that's had a party store in the park by any chance?
Has a what?
A party store.
No.
Okay. So this was something that was in, I used to oversee several parks in Michigan, and every one of these parks had what the resident managers called a party store. And it was like a structure that was on the site that was basically somebody would have like rent and this thing could be a shed, and there would be a resident that would rent this thing and would sell like chips and snacks and like Cheetos and that type of thing out of it. And I grew up in like on the blue collar side of a white affluent suburb. And so I saw this thing and I just shut them down. I was like, this is like absolutely crazy. Are they collecting sales tax and that sort of thing? And when I did, like the residents just like rioted. Like it was. You
can't crash the party. You can't crash the party. Come on.
I think the guy running it, his name was Bubbles, right? On the investor relation side, what part of how much time does that take up? And then where do you guys source your leads? And then maybe talk a little bit about your conversions.
On the investor side. So on the IR side, how much time does it consume? I think it just depends. Our investors are pretty hands off in that they're not, we do the reporting and we make sure that we're in constant contact, and I give everyone my cell phone number and my email so they know how to reach me. But I would say it takes up time, but it's good time. So I'm usually catching up with investors, understanding how they're doing, how their families are doing. And then they're always asking me, hey, do you have any deals that are coming online? How are these deals performing? I saw the pictures, they look great, or, those types of conversations. I think, maybe I should have answered your second question first, because it would kind of help explain why that is. So our entire investor base is referral based. So, we do not broadly market our funds or our investments, and nor can we, because we're a 506B. So we have to have like an established relationship. So whatever that is, maybe it's 30 days, or maybe it's, one night of going out to dinner, or, a couple of phone calls. And so we have about 250 investors, all of which that we, somebody at the firm personally knows, or, I know personally as well. So it makes the job really fun. So we have a lot of repeat investors. We have investors that have been with us for 12, 15 years and just continue to invest in, there's lots of stories, but we have one investor who, lives off the cash flow and has helped put her son through college through the cash flow, and is retired and enjoys her life. And it's a really cool story in that, those are the types of people that you're helping, and that's the power of what we do as active investors. But for our investors, it's passive. It's the cash flow, and we pay monthly, which is, I think, unique, because most pay quarterly, but we pay monthly cash flow. And then, with the power of the 1031 exchange, that compounding effect when you're growing, pre-tax dollars, it really, it grows that cash on cash in a pretty meaningful way.
Nice. Am I frozen for you guys? I'll pop out and pop back in if I am.
Yeah, yes. You are. If you want to pop back out, pop in. I have a follow-up question. Ben, what is the capital stack typically on these deals?
Yeah, so right now, loan to values, you could call them about 50%. We do agency debt, so we're doing Freddie or Fannie debt, 50% LTV. Generally, we're doing 10-year debt right now. It just depends on the deal, but if we like the deal, it's a long-term hold, 10-year debt, 5 years IO, and then it will amortize on a 30-year schedule, year 6 through 10, and then you have a balloon payment. Mm-hmm. And then, so if you're doing 10-year debt, usually the spread over treasuries is between, let's call it 1.7 to 2. Mm-hmm. So you can so I don't know, I didn't check the treasury today, but I believe yesterday it was like 4.1 something. So you can call it, your all-in rate is probably 5.9, 6%.
So are you Fannie Freddie on the acquisitions like every time, or do you use a bridge to come in? Like I don't know if you ever acquire any distressed properties that really aren't going to be kosher for Fannie Freddie type of stuff.
Yeah, I know we try to avoid those. So we want to anything we buy, we want it to be eligible for the agencies.
Mhm.
There's also, I would say, a premium to those parks as well. You don't, so within our buy box, we don't want to be buying stuff that's in a flood zone or is below, like, let's call it like 50 units or 40 units, something like that. So we're in like the 100 unit space.
Mhm.
And then your second question was, I forgot. So did I answer that?
You answered it. I guess a follow up to that is generally speaking, like, are the agencies adverse to a certain percentage of park owned homes, or is there a sort of mix that has to be like, or can they all be 100% park owned homes? Because the
No.
model has definitely changed a lot.
Yeah. So the park owned homes piece is interesting. So generally speaking, you won't get the financing on the park owned homes. They'll do some, right? But if it's all park owned homes, they'll separate that out.
Mhm.
So yeah, you want to be cautious of that. So we acquire deals that have park owned homes definitely on it. And we're also a manufactured home dealer. So if we do buy park owned homes, we could refinance them using a dealership line of credit,
Mhm.
and do that financing as well. So you kind of have a blend, and then you slowly sell those assets off over time, because the goal is to make them all resident owned homes.
Mhm.
But yeah, there are some parameters for the agencies on the park owned homes piece of it.
Okay, got it. Yeah, because that was the one thing that has always been a challenge, because I think that the banking, the whole banking industry is kind of behind the times in terms of like they're working in like the sort of like I guess the Jim Clayton era of
Mhm.
building of manufactured housing communities. So I've always been talking about this. Is frustrating because doing the park owned home deals is very difficult. I mean, that's the reason why there's so much seller financing in the MHC space, is because a lot of most banks don't even get it,
Yeah.
and they're adverse to it.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest problem in our industry is the financing side of the homes, which really does a disservice to the residents. And I think it's something that needs to get solved. So you have like shadow loans, right? Those are generally, like, let's call it maybe like 9 to 12%, which actually isn't terrible, just given what like 30-year mortgage rates are now. They haven't
Yeah.
moved, in tandem with like the 30-year. But yeah, I think that, that's something that Congress is actually, probably going to, I see it on the ballots, and it's probably something that they will try um, to bypass and solve. And I think that you're going to need some regulation to come in and allow for people to get more traditional financing on the homes specifically, and it will make them even more affordable as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the FHA program. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me that they should, amend those underwriting criterias around the asset class, because, I mean, it's like 21st Mortgage is a great company, but I
Mhm.
mean, their rates are pretty high, and
Mhm.
they're definitely. It's almost like you have like a tale of two cities between what's been readily available for most people in the country. That's sort of like, I mean, to me, it's a form of redlining.
Yeah,
And I think it should be. I don't understand why it hasn't been changed.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think it's a good comparison using redlining. I think so as well. And it's a shame. And I mean, it really comes down to the fact that these things are not mobile, but because they have a VIN number, that the risk associated with financing them is that someone can run off with it. And it's just not the case. I mean, the retention rate out of park is like 93%. I mean, when
Mhm.
these people buy their homes, they're not moving them.
Mhm. All right, Mark, you're back.
I'm back. I'm back. I don't know where you want to take it from here.
I mean, dude, I can go down the whole like a ton of different rabbit holes. So I just don't want to. I just don't want to monopolize the conversation from you, Mark. So, and
No, go
plus,
ahead.
Mark and I are doing an event tonight, so I'm going to be like, and I'm this I'm the moderator for the event, and I'm always like talking like nonstop. So
Yeah, I tend to ramble as well sometimes.
Yeah. So I guess what is the typical? Are you doing a fund structure, or are you raising deal by deal? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we don't do a fund structure, so we don't do a blind pool fund. We're doing deal by deal syndications.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an LLC structure, and it's pretty straightforward. So one of the things that happens is that when we do secure a deal that we're going to buy, we then we'll do the webinar and have the pitch deck that goes out and do the Q&As and all the videos and so forth. And then we generally have about 3 months where we raise the capital before closing. So it's a pretty expedited process, and so we're very thankful that we have a great investor base that has known us for a long time and kind of can make quick decisions. And we try to make the process pretty simple for them as well. Like we buy deals that we would want to put our moms in, and deals that we personally want to own, right? And I think that's probably everyone and anyone that's in this business. But generally speaking, when people are looking at, they're like, okay, what market is it in? And then they'll look at the returns. They'll ask some questions, and if I'm saying these are repeat investors, right? And then they're pretty quick on making a decision. And then new investors that come into our platform, usually they'll kind of come in, they'll see a couple of deals go by, and then they'll say, okay, I get the sense of who you guys are, and then they jump in.
What kind of technology are you using for your platform, for your investors?
Yeah. So I just joined last May. So right now we're using Juniper Square as our investor portal, thinking about making a move to another InvestNext. Actually, I like the fact that investors can do the entire onboarding process without us physically doing and hand holding it, so they can invest directly through the platform, including like the ACH and like the accreditation status. I use Active Campaign for my email marketing, so found that has worked really well. And then that's really about it. I mean, there's other software that we use, but from my standpoint, it's basically Active Campaign and Juniper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've talked to a couple of different people that have used InvestNext, and they swear by it. So, and then we've had actually another guest on that really liked Avestor, I think is the platform as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about marketing. Besides stuff like this, Ben, getting on podcasts and increasing visibility for comfort, what does your your marketing campaigns look like outside of like appearing as guests on podcasts and that sort of thing? Like what typically, you'd have an active campaign in terms of email. What is your message to your distribution list when you don't have a deal that's in front of you that you're doing a raise for? Or tell us about your marketing strategy.
Yeah, I think it's evolving, but essentially what I do, I like to write, and so and I just love markets. I love what we do, so I try to educate our investors. So I put together articles and blogs and things that I think they would find really helpful to help educate them, right? And so help them speak the same language, or help them think about things the way that we see them, right? Whether it's like let's just say the benefits of passive investing versus active, or if it's the tax advantages of mobile home parks, or if it's what is core plus, value added and opportunistic, and what do they actually mean, and what are the returns, and what does it entail? So understand the risk reward. And I've done a ton of different content, so I like doing that. We do a lot of events with our investors as well. We'll do open houses and getting out into the market, meeting people. I do a lot of lunches, a lot of dinners. So that's more of me actually getting out and meeting people directly. Sending out the articles, just continue to nurture kind of our existing investors as well as prospective investors. So then they get content and they get to learn alongside of us. And then when we finally do get a deal, there's a lot of information. I'll do deep dives on the market. We'll have the webinar. I'll have another separate webinar, which is Q&A. So you're setting fundraising updates, all of that stuff. So I wouldn't say I'm a pro by any means, still learning along the way. And if you have any advice, let me know. And we haven't done a lot of podcasts. This is unique. LinkedIn Live. I didn't even know this was a possibility. I think I've been on a couple of podcasts, but I'd like to do more of them. I mean, I'm willing to talk to anyone that's going to lend me an ear. So yeah, doing more of this is fun.
Do you do this all by yourself, or do you have a staff that helps you, like on the marketing side, to make things look pretty and all that stuff?
Yeah. I pretty much write and type every single word that goes into the pitch deck, but and review it all and kind of have final say. But when it comes to the actually making it pretty, we hire that out. And so we'll use like somebody from Fiverr, Upwork, or we've looked at a couple other contractors as well. And so we kind of already have the theme and the colors and kind of how we like the deck to look and the marketing materials. And then we also have a team that helps us on the website. So they update our website and do all of that. And then internally, I have a couple of analysts that work under me that help me kind of just be able to be more efficient at my job and do the 20% that really makes it, the biggest impact for what we do. And then, I have a phenomenal team, and it's a team effort. So yeah, it takes a village to put it all together. It would be a lot of work if I was just doing it by myself. So I'm glad I have support.
Yeah. So in terms of cash flow, like what is it? Because it sounds like your investors are more cash flow motivated than, like, let's say, like long-term equity multiple, no cash flow. So what are your general like cash distribution like yields to your investment partners?
Yeah, right now things are starting off at a five cash on cash.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, that's paid monthly. So that's an annualized yield, net yield that's paid monthly. They usually scale up to about a 7-8% cash on cash as you go down the investment cycle. And then you kind of, then you do a portfolio, you sell it back down at like a 5 cap, you create all that value, 1031 exchange, take that new principal balance. Now you're building, let's just say hypothetically, back on a 5%, doing that entire process again, rinse, repeating, and just growing that monthly dividend. So yeah, right now things have just been about at a 5% cash on cash. That's just where the market is. And it's also the higher quality deals, there's just more competition. There's, like a cap rate really, in its most basic terms, and a cap rates can, get pretty complicated when you just, what is the cap rate? What exactly are you trying to calculate? But a cap rate, if it's lower, generally speaking, unless it's value add, it's going to, because there's less risk, right? So it's going to produce a smaller cash flow, but there's more upside in the appreciation from the fact that this asset theoretically has a lot of demand. But you could also get in a lot of trouble if you buy a deal with a low cap rate and the market turns on you, or that asset is not as in demand as you might think.
Yeah. So I have to ask you, Ben, how did you guys wind up in an airplane hangar?
Yeah, it's a great question. So this is the upstairs of the hangar. I'm actually in the conference room here. So Blake and Jen, brother and sister, they started the company alongside their father back in 2009. It was started in 2008, bought the first deal in 2009, 3 generations of general contracting. So they built apartments, and going through the global financial crisis, they came to, this crossroads where, they were like, what's next? Because the construction industry is hard, and we're handing over the keys to these big apartment complexes to the guy that rolls up in the AMG in the suit. So they kind of saw like, okay, we need to have skin in the game. We need to have ownership. And so they went out and looked at the market and did this kind of soul searching exercise and landed on mobile home parks. And, the lights went off and like, oh my gosh, like, this is it. This is great. Like, you don't have to build. You don't have to build these. You could just call up the manufacturer and they could have you, they could come bring you a home in a month or 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So that's really when the light bulb went off for them. And when they were looking for cheap office space, Hangars are just, could be cheap office, and we live close. They live in the community we're in. It's close to a regional airport, so they rented out a hangar space. It's not this one, and then they decided to get their pilot's license and became pilots. And then you upgrade, then you buy the bigger hangar and you buy nicer toys, and so that's just kind of how that all grew and evolved. And now we're in a hangar, so it's really an awesome place to come in and work and show clients and have events, and it makes it a lot of fun. I mean, going from being in a big corporate office to now getting to, run around in an airplane hangar and hang out at the airport and see cool planes and meet cool people. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, it's like a kid in a candy shop.
How many people come into the office?
We have about 14 people in our corporate office. So we're like 12 to 14 call it on any given day. Our accounts, they'll rotate and work from home some days. So any given day, you got probably about 10 people here. And then we have about 40 other individuals that are actually in the field. So they're actually at the properties, and that's the property management team. But yeah, we have a lot of fun. It's a really cool culture. And, we're all very ambitious and hardworking, but we also like to have fun too. I mean, one of the best things that I learned early in my career is like, you got to celebrate the wins, because, you got to, if you're always just looking for what's next, and you're not, taking a step back and smelling the roses and enjoying the moment, it goes by quick. And you're like, what am I actually even doing all this work for?
Right.
Mark, that's our biggest struggle. I think Mark and you and I have talked about this before. It's like you work so hard for the wins that when you actually do win, you're like, damn right, I should have won. So you're not really like, it doesn't, like, you don't get a lot of fulfillment out of actually winning, like at a visceral level. And I think that sometimes you just have to be like, go on a walk and like, just appreciate and celebrate, and like force yourself to celebrate those wins. I don't know. What do you say to that, Mark?
Yeah, it's almost like a win is just like taking a little bit of stress off, right? You walk around with all this stress all the time, and you get a win and you're like, okay, I'm a little less stressed right now. That's how I feel anyway when I get a win.
It's true.
So you have any kids, Ben?
I do. Yes. I have a 6-month-old baby girl. So first child,
congrats.
Yeah, new dad. And it's been amazing. So that's probably the win I'm most proud of, is now having a family with my wife and having a little one.
What's her name?
Riley.
Nice.
Excellent.
Matt's got a new one as well.
Yeah.
Congrats,
6-month-old. It's our second. So we're still not sleeping through the night. It's like two times a night still. So, but no, it was like I don't know, kind of a cathartic thing. I don't know. Mark had kids a while ago. But like, I don't know, when you're a new parent, it's like almost like you're forced to like actually re-experience life through the eyes of a child. So it's been like a really, really cool experience, and almost like learning a lot about myself during the process.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Yeah, it's so fun right now. It's 6 months, and I just cannot wait for the years to come. Like, I'm a big sports guy. Like, I'm excited to like do the sports thing with them, and so it'll be really fun. And I'm one of those people where I don't go to amusement parks or do like things like that. I know there are some like millennials or people that do stuff like that without kids, but it will be fun to like go to the zoo and go to like Disneyland and like see their eyes light up and stuff and kind of live through them. So yeah, I'm excited.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go to Disneyland like as soon as you possibly can, because a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to wait until my kids can actually remember it. And the thing is that I actually made the decision to go to Disney World 3 times in 1 year, because like, because I saw the first time I went there, I saw like the target age where people wanted to, and their kids were brats. Like they were like, complaining and whining and, didn't want to do this ride and wanted to like, look on their phone and stuff like that. I'm just like, dude, I'm like, no, I'm just going to like, just do the shit out of this thing like early on. And then and then just like forget, and then just
Be
forget
done with
about the
it.
place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy.
I think my son must have been like 3 when we took him, and we didn't realize this. He had a temperature of like 102 or something really high, and we're like, felt horrible, but we're like, we're there, gave him some meds. There's lots of pictures of him having fun, but I was also like, should we really be doing this right now?
Dude, you were like Chevy Chase, like going to Wally World. It's like we're gonna be the happy
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great movie.
So Ben, what's next for you guys at Comfort? Is it sort of just like block and tackle, or are you kind of like looking at different things in the future for the company?
Yeah, no, it's a lot of blocking and tackling. We're, buying more deals. We want to get, I'd like to raise about $50 million this year, by about, 700 to 1,000 units. We're at 2,400. So, I mean, it's a big growth stage, but we're really at that tipping point where we've done all the groundwork and the hard work. And now it's just about buying bigger deals and better deals. And the thing is that the bigger deals are actually easier than the smaller deals at times, right? It's just a name of like, the book 10x is easier than 2x. It's so true. Like, buying a 300 space park is, no harder than a 50 unit park. And, you could almost argue that it's actually easier depending on the market. I mean, you'd want to buy something that's like nice, occupied and has a lot of demand. But yeah, just the name of the game right now is scaling. So we've kind of talked about it. This is the year of refinement, the year of scale, just building out, continue to refine and build out the team and the procedures and the process and just get to a point where we can grow it to be eventually a $1 billion company. So, and do that while having fun. I mean, it's all about the journey. So that has nothing to do with money or how much value we create. It's all about our investors, the residents, and for us, it's just enjoying the journey together and having a lot of fun along the way.
Are you guys excited to pivot into Texas?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited. I like that market. There are some nuances with Texas. I mean, you got weather, you got insurance, you got property taxes, right? So you also got supply. So, but it'll be fun. It'll be an adventure. I mean, it's like I said, it's got the employment, it's got the population growth, it's also got the scalability. You got a lot of MHC out there, so you could grow. And yeah, and I just personally like Texans, they're just really nice and down to earth. And like we were just out there and we just had, everyone's just like super nice. Like you're going through like a Chipotle property tours and it's like, oh man, these people are like really nice. And like, they're no different than the Chipotle workers in San Diego, but for some reason, like they're like asking, how y'all doing? And just like really, so yeah, I like that aspect of it. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, fingers crossed that we can land a deal in Texas this year. And then, you just got to have faith. It's one of those things where what we do, it's, it's a lot of work and there's a lot of unknowns, but if you just kind of keep staying consistent and chipping away, then things will fall your way. So yeah, that's all I really got.
Who's going to move to Texas to get everything situated and make sure you got the right boots on the ground?
I will nominate our COO who heads up our management team, but he also has a 6-month-old. I don't think he's moving out to Texas, but no, we fly out there. We'll hire teams that live there too, and then we'll cultivate them in-house. So we do a lot of like team trainings. We subscribe to Tony Robbins. So we have a coach and we do a monthly call with her and go through different like principles and really just try to build like a culture around it. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind living in Texas. I really wanted the property taxes suck, but the no state income tax would be nice.
No, I don't think the property taxes are as bad as New York.
No, there's nothing as bad as New York when it comes to taxes. Maybe California. I mean, they're one and the same.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The thing with like, especially with Western New York, is that your mortgage, like your property tax, is equivalent to your mortgage payment, essentially. So,
What?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're putting like 20% down, yeah. I mean, like, if you're putting like more than 20% down, then like, yeah, you can get that, you can get that down. But like, your real estate tax bill is going to be higher than your mortgage payment. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yep. Keeps our prices really low though.
That makes sense. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, your prices must be low because it's also kind of a bummer too, because I'm sure they cash flow well, but you're not gonna get, you're kind of capped on like the growth a little bit,
Absolutely.
Hey, guys, I got somebody at my door. I need to answer the door, so I got to hop off. Ben, I sent out a connection on LinkedIn to you, so let's stay connected, man.
Yeah, thanks,
All right.
Matt.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mark.
thanks everybody for listening. Yeah, thanks, Ben. We'll see you guys all next week.